Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to part 2 of Budget ROOOOOBATTLE! Greetings and salutations, gentle watcher. We have Budget ROOOOOBATTLE part 2. If you aren't aware what this is, it's a new mad thing where I'm taking two products of basically the same price and specifications and then putting them up against each other to see which is the best. And this one was actually very, very close. It came right down to the wire, but the one beat out the other one in the spec point just a little bit. But for those of you who have watched the channel and have seen me reviewing product, you will know that I'm a massive fan of Steelseries TrueMove sensors. I think TrueMove Pro is the best sensor in the market because, well, it's the only one that's 100% tracking. Others get to 99.6 and it is very difficult to feel a difference on it 99.9% of the time. But that 0.1% of the time, it's just going to flummox you and then you just feel like going back to the 100% tracking, wouldn't you? Because it never fails. It just is that good. But Logitech's Hero sensor is one of those like 99.6% tracking areas. So they're very comparable in that facet, and that's not where the comparisons start and end. These are as close to each other as products as could humanly possibly be, but they are slightly leaning towards one end of the other. That being the Logitech just leaning a little bit more towards desktop and the Rival Steelseries leaning a little bit more towards mobility. So let us start off with the package contents and what's in the box. Well, for the Rival you get a double AAA setup, which then pretty simply slots in like that, and one more like that. The dongle then sits in the middle of the mouse over here, and well, you obviously remove and need to put that into your PC, and then closes up the back just like that. On the bottom is the power button to then turn it on and for it to start searching. You can, however, as you'll notice as I do this, run it with a single AAA, which then makes it the lighter of the two, and that's, trust me, very, very necessary. The G305 employs a single AA, which gives a little bit better battery life overall, I think, compared to the single AAA. It just will, it's a bigger cell, it's got more current. The double on this will be better, but then it's going to be heavier, so you can see the sort of issue there. Same thing, it's got a dongle storage slot right next to the battery over there, and then the cover goes onto the back just like that. Power button once again on the bottom, and it's blue and red, which is nice. So it's blue on for your G305 and then similarly on the top. The size and dimensioning of these things is also pretty much exactly the same. They are a bit smaller than the Model O. They are a bit shorter mouse, and I did find that when I was using them that, well, if you're looking at it now on screen, you can see I can go right over the top with them set further back in the palm. The Logitech does feel longer, which is weird because it's actually got less hump and less rounding to it. And maybe that's why, because this sort of sits right back in the palm. It feels a bit more natural over there like that. Then you can see this one, I would come up a little bit more forward onto the mouse. While we are poking around the bottom, it has to be noted that between the two, the one clearly has a superior feet setup. And it's actually the Logitech, because the sensor hole is shielded on this one. While this has a really nice big piece of PTFE around the bottom over here, there's absolutely nothing around the sensor hole there. So that will catch eventually. It just will catch. It is recessed, and there is actually like seemingly a space there for it. It's just not there. Both of them feel really good out of box on the glider, except I think you can see the Logitech is just a little bit more glidey, and I can't help but feel it's due to that. I would have liked this to have been one solid piece, Logitech. Yes, it's more material cost, but come on, man, just a little bit more over there. If you're going to charge me $50 for that, do it, because that will just make it then absolutely perfect. Neither of these are perfect because this one doesn't have, this one's got better surface area around the edges, but nothing around the sensor hole. And then this one's got around the sensor hole, but less around the edges. But this is still better of the two. Speaking of sensors, which has the best? This one, marginally. 6000 DPI more, 400 IPS 40G. This Hero 12K is also 400 IPS 40G, but 12,000 DPI, and then it's like a 99.6% tracking accuracy. It's not a true 100% tracking. The TrueMoves are the only ones that are true 100% tracking. Now let's talk buttons and scroll. So they both have the recessed style of button. This is much more noticeable than the Logitech. The Logitech's a little bit subtle as it goes towards the middle, and generally the scroll's like your tactile feedback for that. With this, you get ridges before the tactile feedback of the scroll, so you do know where you are. It is a little bit more comfortable overall, I have to say, than the Logitech. The Logitech, like I said, it's a weird hand feel. It's very different. It's more for clawing, I would say, than this is. This is a bit more of a palm-centric sort of setup. And I would still have to claw back a little bit like that when I do use it because it's shorter. And I'm used to a Sensei 10, which is quite a long boy. But the buttons themselves, the Logitech is a little bit sensitive, especially on the right click. I find myself taking off my silencer mid-battle when I was trying to use the M4A1S because it's like the best rifle in CSGO right now. If you aren't using it, you're making mistakes in your life because it's 4 chest shots at long range, which it makes it a better TTK at long range than an AK-47. So yeah, it's really good right now. And between those two, I just did it there now, just even picking up the mouse, it's so sensitive, this right click button. These are more traditional on run. I mean, listen to the audio. These are the Steelseries mechanical, opto-mechanicals. So audio-wise and feel-wise, I'd have to give it again to the Steelseries. It's just a little bit better feeling. It is a little bit hollower on the click. It's not quite as crisp as these are. Just coming off of that audio, you can hear what I'm sort of talking about. This one is just a touch too sensitive though. Between the two scrolls, I'd have to once again give it to the Steelseries, just a little bit over this. This is very square. I like the rounded texture and feel and shape of the scroll. The feel of the scroll though is slightly better. It's button as well. This one is just a little bit harder to press. The button on this is better for the scroll. It's much crisper and less hollow than that. Both of them have their DPI buttons around the back over here. The scroll changes for this one, and then the light over here changes for the Logitech. So that's some of the physical setup and some of my feeling on it. But what about in-game performance? So this is where things get very interesting, because I got an AOC 360Hz monitor, the Agon 360Hz, to test at the same time. So I set that up, normalized on that, got used to the screen sort of thing. It's smaller than what I'm used to, so everything felt like, especially long range shots, felt like really small. People at a distance felt like 1 pixel, like trying to hunt there. My old 33-year-old nearly eyes weren't picking that up too well on that 360. But once I normalized, then I started using these mice on it yesterday and through some of the paces this morning. And honestly, it was kind of a dead heat between the two. And initially, I was doing way better with the G305 than I was doing with the Rival 3. It was only when I removed the battery that I started to really come and perform normally, or to sort of my normal level with the Rival 3. With the double battery in, it did feel a touch too heavy, I've got to be honest, especially when sweeping and lifting. And when I shoot, I tend to do those quite a lot. Like if I'm flicking, if I'm holding an angle, then I tend to, if I need to flick up like that, I'll do that on my wrist like that. So the heavier mouse was a bit cumbersome initially with that. The wireless on both is absolutely fantastic. There was absolutely no performance loss or any noticeable delay, etc. between the two. One nicer thing about the Logitech is it does come with this extended cable, so you can then have your dongle sitting right in front of you. And I shamelessly used it for the Rival 3 as well. The only detractor performance-wise for me on the Logitech was that click, that the right click, the clicks being just a little bit too sensitive. Even just resting there, I would sweep and there it goes. Like literally, I would sweep and pick up and I would click that button. It's just a little bit more difficult. You've got to be just a little bit more purposeful on the Rival 3. Now this is where I've got to tell you which is the better of the two. And like I said, it was super difficult. Because of the performance of the G305, I scale of 400 DPI, so massive DPI just doesn't appeal to me personally. I did test them on both of them, like over 8,000, and there was no jitter. So if you're on a high resolution screen, you're going to have no problems there. But the sensor performance over here and the mouse was so good. I was kind of like stunned. I was like, this Logitech is way better than I was expecting it to be, and I'm playing way better than I expected to play. And then it had this really nice little extension cable with like its own little feet and everything so that it can sit nicely on the desk. And that's definitely a little bit more desktop. Whereas the Rival's real like extra and parting piece is a whole nother radio inside of the device. So it's got the 2.4 gigahertz mode, but it's also got a Bluetooth mode. So you wouldn't even need to take your dongle with you if you wanted to use it on a laptop or anything with a Bluetooth device. A lot of motherboards even come with Bluetooth device now built in because they've got built-in Wi-Fi. So they throw in a Bluetooth 5.0 radio with that, and you would be able to use this on any machine that has that. Whether it be Mac as well, I'm sure it'll probably work on there. So this has a lot more use cases to it, but it's a little bit heavier and more cumbersome. And honestly, I think my performance overall in the G305 was slightly better. So with their thumb buttons basically being in the same place, their size dimension basically being the same, comes down to a little bit of preference on what you like in the hand feel on your mouse. Their performance wise, exactly the same. So if you're looking at one to the other, really it's going to be those extra little feature sets that will tide you over, I think, as it did me. If I had to choose between the two, I'm going with the Rival 3, literally just because of the Bluetooth mode. If I didn't need to use it on a laptop or something like that, and this was going to be my main desktop mouse, then I probably honestly would go for the Logitech because of the performance of it, the lightness of it compared to the Rival, especially with its dual battery system. Like I said, it's just this very sensitive right click. That's literally the only detractor for me on this whole product. It's really, really good. It doesn't have, I mean, both of them have scroll shake. It's going to be, it's so much of a muchness. There's actually such a dead heat between these two products. This one scored maybe 0.1 higher than this one just because of that Bluetooth dongle. But I think you can sort of see why Budget ROOOOBATTLE needs to be a thing. Anywho, if you have enjoyed this review, please do hit us up with a like and subscribe, and I will see you on the flip side. Yes, I have a blonde.